puppeteer of the damned. The town of Ravenswood was known for its eerie tales, but none were as chilling as the legend of the dollmaker, a reclusive artisan who crafted lifelike dolls with an unsettling precision. The tales spoke of a vengeful spirit that possessed the dolls, seeking retribution for the sins committed against the dollmaker. As I delved into the town's history, I became entranced by the macabre narrative, little knowing that the dollmaker's revenge would soon unfold in the shadows of Ravenswood. The dollmaker's workshops stood on the outskirts of town, a dilapidated structure with weathered shutters that creaked in the wind. Intrigued by the stories, I ventured into the decaying building, the air thick with the musty scent of forgotten secrets. Dust-covered dolls lined the shelves, their glass eyes seeming to follow my every move. Among the dolls, one figure stood out, an exquisite creation with porcelain features that mirrored a haunting beauty. Its eyes, devoid of life, seemed to conceal an unseen malevolence. As I gazed at the doll, a shiver ran down my spine, a premonition that I had become entwined in the dollmaker's revenge. Night after night, the doll haunted my dreams, a spectral presence that whispered tales of betrayal and tragedy. I became an unwilling participant in the vengeful narrative, a pawn in the dollmaker's quest for retribution. The boundaries between reality and the supernatural blurred as the doll's influence seeped into my waking hours. Strange occurrences plagued my life, objects moved on their own, and whispers echoed through the stillness of the night. The doll, once confined to the workshop, now seemed to materialize in unexpected places, a harbinger of the revenge that lurked in the shadows of Ravenswood. In a desperate bid to unravel the mystery, I delved into the town's archives, uncovering a dark chapter in the dollmaker's history. The artisan, driven by a madness born from heartbreak, had crafted the dolls as vessels for vengeful spirits. The townsfolk, unaware of the sinister forces at play, had wronged the dollmaker, triggering a malevolent force that sought to avenge the artisan's tormented soul. As the dollmaker's revenge unfolded, the doll's presence became increasingly ominous. Its porcelain features twisted into expressions of anguish, and the air vibrated with an unseen malevolence. I realized that the vengeful spirit sought to use me as a conduit, a puppet in the dollmaker's unholy theater of retribution. In the dead of night, the dolls within the workshop seemed to come alive, their glass eyes glowing with an eerie light. The puppet strings of the supernatural puppeteer manipulated my every move, leading me through a nightmarish labyrinth of revenge and redemption. The spirits, bound to the dolls, sought solace through the torment of the living. In a final act of defiance, I confronted the doll in the decaying workshop. The air crackled with spectral energy as the vengeful spirit within the porcelain vessel revealed its tragic tale. The dollmaker's revenge, a twisted dance of the damned, reached its climax as the workshop trembled with an otherworldly force. As the doll's porcelain features contorted with anguish, the malevolent spirits were released from their haunted vessels. The workshop fell into an eerie silence, the revengeful energy dissipating into the shadows. The dollmaker's quest for retribution, woven into the fabric of Ravenswood's history, had come to an end. The town, now freed from the spectral puppeteer's grasp, stood silent in the aftermath of the supernatural ordeal. The legend of the dollmaker's revenge, etched into the decaying walls of the workshop, served as a chilling reminder that some tales linger in the shadows, seeking release through the unwitting souls who dare to unravel the mysteries of the past. The dollmaker's retribution. In the heart of the forgotten town, a dilapidated shop stood as a relic of a time when the dollmaker's creations brought joy to children and collectors alike. However, the joy had long faded, replaced by a sinister legend that whispered of the dollmaker's revenge, an ancient tale that echoed through the decaying streets. As a collector of oddities, I stumbled upon the dollmaker's shop, a place where time seemed frozen in a haunting tableau. The shelves were adorned with lifeless eyes and porcelain limbs, each doll bearing the mark of the infamous creator. Intrigued by the macabre allure, I purchased a doll, unaware that my acquisition would awaken a vengeful force that lingered in the shadows. The doll, an exquisite creation with eyes that seemed to follow my every move, became an unsettling presence in my home, night after night. I heard faint whispers echoing through the silent corridors, a spectral lullaby that seemed to emanate from the porcelain lips of the doll. Unseen footsteps danced along the edges of my consciousness, and a malevolent energy pulsed through the air. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I delved into the town's haunted history. The dollmaker, a reclusive artisan with a penchant for the occult, had met a tragic end when the townsfolk, fearing his unholy creations, condemned him to a fate worse than death. Legend spoke of the dollmaker's revenge, a curse that would be unleashed upon anyone who dared to possess his creations. The doll, now a conduit for the dollmaker's vengeful spirit, seemed to come alive in the quiet hours of the night. Its porcelain eyes glowed with an otherworldly luminescence, and the room became a spectral stage for a haunting performance. The whispers escalated into anguished cries, and the air pulsated with the presence of an unseen force. As the dollmaker's revenge unfolded, the doll's features contorted into expressions of malevolence. Its porcelain limbs moved with an unnatural grace, and the room warped into a haunting tableau. Shadows, once mere spectres on the periphery, took on grotesque forms that danced along the walls. Desperation seized me. As the vengeful force of the dollmaker intensified, the doll, once a cherished collectible, became a harbinger of supernatural terror. Night after night, the spectral lullaby morphed into haunting whispers that echoed through the house, a reminder of the dollmaker's wrath. In a desperate attempt to break the curse, I sought the guidance of a local medium, a keeper of forgotten tales. The medium, with eyes that held a haunted wisdom, spoke of the dollmaker's tormented spirit seeking retribution for the injustice he had endured. The only way to appease the vengeful force was to return the doll to the long-abandoned shop and face the dollmaker's spectral judgment. As I approached the dilapidated shop, the air became thick with an otherworldly energy. The dollmaker's creations, once lifeless on the shelves, seemed to come alive with an ethereal glow. The haunting whispers reached a deafening crescendo as I placed the doll on the dusty counter, an offering to the vengeful spirit that lingered within. The room quivered with an unseen force, and the dollmaker's presence manifested in a ghostly apparition. His eyes, filled with centuries of anguish, bore into my very soul. The room transformed into a spectral realm, a theatre for the dollmaker's judgment. With a heavy heart, I uttered words of remorse and sought forgiveness for the town's sins. The dollmaker's figure, once a harbinger of revenge, seemed to soften. The haunting whispers faded, and the room returned to an eerie tranquility. As I left the shop, the weight of the curse lifted. The dollmaker's revenge, appeased by the offering of the haunted doll, faded into the echoes of the town's haunted history. The forgotten shop, now a relic of a supernatural encounter, stood silent and still, its shelves holding the memories of a vengeful force that had sought retribution in the quiet corners of the dollmaker's forsaken creations. The dollmaker's vengeance. The small town of Ravenswood was renowned for its eerie tales, and at its heart lived the enigmatic dollmaker. Locals whispered of her mysterious craftsmanship, claiming she breathed life into her dolls. Drawn by morbid curiosity, I decided to explore the dollmaker's abode, unaware that my visit would unleash a malevolence that had long been confined to the silent gaze of her porcelain creations. As I approached the dilapidated house at the edge of town, the air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding. The dollmaker's residence stood like a forgotten relic, its windows shrouded in tattered curtains that seemed to sway with an unnatural breeze. The door, creaking open with a hesitant sigh, revealed a dimly lit interior filled with an unsettling collection of dolls. Porcelain eyes followed my every move as I navigated the eerie chambers of the dollmaker's domain. The air seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and a subtle unease crept over me as I examined the intricately crafted dolls that adorned every surface. Each one bore a haunting resemblance to a person from the town locals who had seemingly vanished without a trace. In the heart of the dollmaker's workshop, a life-sized doll stood on display, an uncanny recreation of a missing townsperson. Its porcelain gaze held a malevolence that transcended the boundaries of inanimate objects. Disturbed but compelled to unravel the mystery, I continued my exploration. As night fell, the workshop transformed into a spectral realm. The dolls, once motionless, seemed to stir with an unseen force. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy, and the life-sized doll's eyes glowed with an ethereal luminescence. The dollmaker's revenge, it seemed, was about to unfold. I stumbled upon a hidden chamber, concealed behind a dusty tapestry. The room, bathed in an eerie light, revealed an array of enchanted symbols and mystic artifacts. The dollmaker's dark arts, it appeared, held the key to her vengeful creations. A sense of dread settled in as I realized that the dolls were conduits for a malevolent force, seeking retribution. The life-sized doll, now animated by the dollmaker's revenge, descended from its pedestal. The other dolls followed suit, their porcelain limbs moving with a spectral grace. A haunting melody echoed through the workshop, a mournful tune that seemed to be the harbinger of the impending reckoning. As the dolls surrounded me, their porcelain eyes glowed with an otherworldly luminescence. The dollmaker's revenge, a force fueled by betrayal and resentment, manifested in the life-sized doll. It spoke through the haunting melody, recounting tales of broken promises and shattered dreams, a dark narrative that mirrored the fate of the townspersons who had vanished without a trace. Desperation set in as I sought to escape the spectral grasp of the vengeful dolls. The workshop, now a chamber of malevolence, seemed to contort and shift with an unnatural force. The dollmaker's revenge, fueled by the spirits of the missing townspersons, sought to convey the depth of their anguish. In a final act of desperation, I stumbled upon the dollmaker's journal, a chronicle of forbidden rituals and a pact with the supernatural. The dolls, it seemed, were vessels for the tormented spirits seeking justice. The dollmaker's revenge, a manifestation of her own betrayal, had become a curse that bound the town in a cycle of suffering. As I uncovered the truth, the workshop erupted in a crescendo of spectral energy. The dolls, now conduits for the vengeful spirits, dissolved into the ethereal realm from which they had emerged. The dollmaker's revenge, its purpose fulfilled, left behind an eerie silence that hung over the empty workshop. As I left the dollmaker's house, the town seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. The missing townspersons, now liberated from the porcelain vessels, faded into the shadows of Ravenswood. The dollmaker's revenge, a malevolent force seeking retribution, had been quelled, leaving the town to grapple with the lingering echoes of its haunted past. The Dollmaker's house, once a chamber of malevolence, now stood in silent solitude. The dolls, once animated by the Dollmaker's revenge, returned to their motionless state. The town, though scarred by the spectral ordeal, bore witness to the consequences of forbidden arts and the vengeance that could be unleashed from the delicate hands of a dollmaker scorned